The rain was pouring down on the streets of Chicago that November evening when I got the call that would change everything. My phone buzzed while I was adjusting my motorcycle helmet, about to start another delivery shift. The caller ID showed Uncle Richard, a name I hadn't seen on my screen in months. "Daniel, we need to talk about your father's business." His voice was cold, distant. "The board has decided. We're filing for bankruptcy." 24 years old, and in that moment, everything I thought I knew about my life crumbled. My name is Daniel Carter, and 6 months ago, I was the heir to Carter Industries, a mid-sized manufacturing company my father had built from the ground. 6 months ago, I was engaged to Madison, planning our wedding, living in a downtown penthouse. 6 months ago, I thought I had it all figured out. But life has a way of teaching you humility when you least expect it. Hey everyone, if you're watching this from Chicago like me, or anywhere else in the world, drop a comment letting me know what city you're tuning in from. I love connecting with viewers from different places. And if you're enjoying this story so far, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. The bankruptcy wasn't just about money, it was about family betrayal. Uncle Richard, my father's brother and business partner, had been embezzling funds for years. When Dad died in that car accident 2 years ago, I was too grief-stricken and inexperienced to notice the signs. By the time I realized what was happening, it was too late. The company was drowning in debt, and Uncle Richard had covered his tracks well enough to make it look like poor management. My poor management. Madison left me the day after the bankruptcy announcement. "I can't be with someone who has nothing to offer," she said, returning the engagement ring like it was contaminated. Her words cut deeper than any financial loss. My cousins, Uncle Richard's sons, James and Michael, they were the worst part. At the family gathering after the bankruptcy announcement, they cornered me near the drinks table. "So, Daniel," James smirked, adjusting his expensive watch, "I heard you're delivering food now, on a motorcycle no less." Michael laughed, shaking his head. "You became a delivery guy? How embarrassing. Dad always said you didn't have what it takes to run a real business." The Chicago winter was brutal that year, but not as brutal as starting over from nothing. I had sold everything, the penthouse, the car, most of my clothes. I moved into a tiny studio apartment on the south side, the kind of place I never thought I'd see the inside of, let alone call home. My motorcycle, a beat-up Honda I bought for $800, became my lifeline. DoorDash, Uber Eats, Grubhub, I worked for all of them, sometimes pulling 16-hour days just to make rent. The irony wasn't lost on me. The guy who used to sign paychecks was now racing against time to deliver someone's dinner before it got cold. The first few weeks were the hardest. My hands would freeze on the handlebars during those December nights, and I'd sit in 24-hour diners between deliveries, nursing a single cup of coffee for hours, trying to figure out how everything had gone so wrong so fast. But something strange started happening around my second month as a delivery driver. I began to notice things, patterns in the delivery business that others seemed to miss. Restaurants that were always backed up with orders, inefficient routing systems, customers frustrated with long wait times. The businessman in me, the part that everyone said was worthless, started to wake up. 3 months into my delivery career, I was sitting in Tony's Pizza on West Grand Avenue, waiting for an order that was running late. It was a Thursday night in February, and the snow was coming down hard outside. The restaurant was chaos. Orders piling up, drivers waiting around, customers calling to complain about delays. "This is ridiculous," muttered another driver, a guy named Carlos who I'd gotten to know over the past few weeks. "I've been waiting here for 40 minutes. I could have done 3 other deliveries by now." That's when it hit me. The problem wasn't just with this restaurant, it was systematic. The entire delivery ecosystem was broken. Restaurants were overwhelmed, drivers were inefficient, and customers were unsatisfied. But what if there was a better way? I started carrying a notebook, documenting everything I observed during my shifts. Peak hours, problem restaurants, common delivery routes, customer complaints. While other drivers saw frustration, I saw opportunity. The breakthrough came on a particularly brutal night in March. I was delivering to a high-rise apartment building downtown, and the elevator was broken. 7th floor, no elevator, carrying bags of Chinese food. As I climbed those stairs, sweating and exhausted, I realized something crucial. The delivery business wasn't really about food. It was about solving logistical problems. That night, I went home to my tiny studio and started sketching out an idea. What if there was a platform that could predict delivery times more accurately? What if we could optimize routes in real time based on traffic, weather, and restaurant preparation times? What if we could create a system that benefited everyone, restaurants, drivers, and customers? I spent the next 2 months working on a business plan during my downtime between deliveries. The Chicago Public Library became my second home. I'd sit there with my laptop, researching logistics algorithms, studying successful startups, learning everything I could about app development and supply chain management. The idea was simple but revolutionary. A delivery optimization platform that would use AI to predict and prevent the inefficiencies I witnessed every day. Instead of just connecting restaurants with drivers, my platform would analyze patterns, predict demand, and create smarter routing systems. But I needed help, and I needed money. The only person I could think to call was my old college roommate, Ethan, who had moved to San Francisco and was working in tech. "Daniel, man, I heard about what happened with your family's company. I'm sorry," Ethan said when I finally worked up the courage to call him. "But what you're describing, this delivery optimization thing, it sounds interesting. Can you send me the business plan?" A week later, Ethan called me back. "I showed your plan to some people here in Silicon Valley. There's interest, Daniel, real interest, but they want to see a prototype." That's when I made the decision that would change everything. I took the $3,000 I had saved from delivery work, money I was planning to use for a better apartment, and hired a freelance developer to build a basic version of my app. For the next month, I beta tested the app using my own delivery routes. The results were incredible. I was completing 30% more deliveries per shift, with better customer satisfaction ratings and less wasted time. Other drivers started asking me how I was so efficient. But the real test came when I approached Tony, the owner of Tony's Pizza, the same restaurant where I'd had my eureka moment. "You want to do what now?" Tony asked, wiping his hands on his apron. "Let me optimize your delivery system for free for 1 week," I said. "If it doesn't improve your efficiency and reduce customer complaints, you don't owe me anything." Tony was skeptical, but he had nothing to lose. By the end of that week, his delivery times had improved by 40%, and customer complaints had dropped to almost zero. Word spread quickly in the Chicago restaurant community. Within a month, I had 5 restaurants wanting to use my system. Within 2 months, I had investors from California flying out to meet me. If you're finding this transformation inspiring, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe. We're just getting to the best part of this journey. 2 years later, I was standing in the conference room of Carter Logistics. Yes, I kept the family name, looking out at the Chicago skyline from the 32nd floor of a downtown office building. My company now employed over 200 people and had partnerships with more than 1,000 restaurants across 15 cities. The same hands that used to freeze on motorcycle handlebars were now signing contracts worth millions of dollars. The irony of success is that it brings back all the people who abandoned you during your lowest moments. Madison started liking my social media posts again. Old friends who had stopped returning my calls suddenly wanted to meet for coffee. But the most satisfying moment came on a Tuesday afternoon in October. My assistant buzzed my office intercom. "Mr. Carter, there are 2 gentlemen here to see you. They say they're your cousins." James and Michael walked into my office, and I could see the discomfort in their faces. They were both wearing expensive suits, but there was something desperate in their eyes that expensive clothes couldn't hide. "Daniel," James started, his voice lacking the arrogance I remembered. "We heard about your success. Congratulations." We were wondering," Michael added, fidgeting with his cufflinks, "if you might have any openings. Internships, maybe. We're both looking for new opportunities." The silence in the room was thick. These were the same cousins who had mocked me for becoming a delivery driver, who had laughed at my embarrassing fall from grace. Now they were in my office asking for jobs. I leaned back in my chair, remembering that cold December night when they had cornered me at the family gathering. But instead of feeling vindictive, I felt something unexpected: compassion. "Tell me," I said, looking at both of them, "what makes you think you'd be a good fit for Carter Logistics?" James and Michael exchanged glances. They both started talking at once, listing their qualifications, their business degrees, their connections, but I held up my hand to stop them. "Do either of you know what it's like to deliver food in a Chicago blizzard?" I asked. "Have you ever sat in a restaurant for an hour, watching inefficient systems waste everyone's time? Have you ever had to choose between paying rent and eating a decent meal?" They both shook their heads. "The thing about success," I continued, "is that it's not built on privilege or connections or even intelligence. It's built on understanding problems from the ground up. When you called me embarrassing for becoming a delivery driver, you missed the most important point. I was learning." I stood up and walked to the window, looking down at the busy streets where I used to navigate on my motorcycle. "I'll tell you what," I said, turning back to face them. "I'll give you both internships, but not in the executive offices. You'll start in our operations center, learning how deliveries actually work. You'll spend time with our drivers, our restaurant partners, our customer service team. If you can prove that you understand the business from the bottom up, then we'll talk about career opportunities." James looked like he wanted to object, but Michael nudged him. "We'll take it," Michael said. "Thank you, Daniel." After they left, I sat alone in my office, thinking about the journey that had brought me here. The bankruptcy that seemed like the end of the world had actually been the beginning of something bigger than I could have imagined. My phone rang. It was Ethan, calling from San Francisco. "Daniel, I just got off a call with the investors. They want to discuss the expansion into European markets. Are you ready to take Carter Logistics global?" I smiled, looking at the framed photo on my desk. A picture of me on my delivery motorcycle from those early days. I kept it as a reminder of where I came from and what I learned during those cold Chicago nights. "I'm ready," I said. The story of how I went from bankruptcy to building a multi-million-dollar company isn't really about revenge or proving people wrong. It's about resilience, observation, and the willingness to find opportunity in the most unlikely places. Sometimes the most embarrassing chapters of our lives turn out to be the most valuable. Those months as a delivery driver didn't just teach me about logistics and customer service. They taught me about humility, hard work, and the importance of understanding every aspect of a business. Today, Carter Logistics is valued at over $50 million. We've revolutionized delivery optimization across North America, and we're expanding internationally. But more importantly, we've created jobs for hundreds of people and improved the efficiency of thousands of small businesses. My cousins are still working their way up through the company, and I'm proud to say they've both developed a real understanding of the business. James now runs our Chicago Operations Center, and Michael heads up our driver training program. As for Madison, she reached out last year wanting to reconnect. I was polite but not interested. Success taught me that the people who abandon you when you're down aren't the people you want around when you're up. The motorcycle is gone now. I drive a Tesla to work every day, but sometimes when I'm stuck in traffic, I miss the simplicity of those delivery days. The clarity of purpose, the immediate feedback, the direct connection between effort and reward. If this story inspired you to see challenges as opportunities, please give this video a thumbs up and subscribe for more stories of transformation and success. And remember, comment below and let me know what city you're watching from and what your biggest takeaway was from Daniel's journey. The rain still falls on Chicago streets, just like it did that November evening when my world fell apart. But now, when I see delivery drivers racing against time to get orders to customers, I don't see embarrassment or failure. I see entrepreneurs who just don't know it yet. Sometimes you have to lose everything to discover what you're truly capable of building.